there is a way that makes math in general easier, is that you have to realize what math is. It's the logic of quantity. It's just logical statements. If this, then that. If that, then the other thing. So just look at the logical flow of it and realize that that's all there is. Where people get hung up is they say, okay, I see the logical flow sort of, but what does it mean? And where does it come from? And why is it like that? And they get all twisted up around that. They want to understand what it's saying about reality, and it's saying nothing about reality. Math doesn't tell you anything about reality. Math just is the logic of quantity. Now, in a virtual physical reality like this one, then everything's in quantity. That's what physical means. It's quantities of things, shapes, sizes, volumes, weights, everything that's real, that's physical, has a volume, has a mass, has these properties, and other things don't exist. It's just the physical is all there is. So anything physical can be reduced to measurements of quantity. All right, so mathematics is just really wonderful for describing the physical world because that's its thing. It's all about quantity. The physical world is all about quantity. So we use math to describe the physical world. See, that's simple, but it doesn't tell you anything dramatic. It doesn't tell you really anything about the physical world. It just says this is logical. You have one here and you have one here and you put them together, you have two things. This is logical. Okay. It doesn't tell you that those two things will shake hands and like each other. It doesn't tell you anything about those two things other than that there's two of them. So it does a part of what we understand. It tells you the logic of quantity. So if you look at math, look at algebra, that's the kind of the next step into math that people decide to take when they're in school. They either take the algebra and go that route, or they take business math and accounting or something like that, and they don't do any more advanced math. So algebra is kind of the break point where they start to head off into more mathy math. And if you just look at it as logic of quantity, nothing more, nothing less. Stop trying to see, what does it mean? What's the significance? What's the meaning of that? There isn't any. It's just the logic of quantity. And it is very logical. And then you go, well, if that's all there is to it, it's easy. All you do is learn the logic. You learn the logic that if I have an x and I have a little 2 on top of it, that means x times x squared, x times itself. Well, what does that mean? All of these things can be broken down really to just additions. Multiplication is just a shorthand for addition. 2 times 3 means that I have two groups of 3. Two groups of 3, I can add this group of 3 and this group of 3, and I get 6. So you see, you can take multiplication, reduce it to addition and subtraction. And you can take x squared, reduce it to x times x, which is multiplication, which is back down to addition. You can take the square root of x to the fifth power, divided by whatever. You can take a big complex thing that you look at, you say, my God, what does that mean? Doesn't mean anything other than you can take all of it and reduce it back down to addition. That's what computers do. Computers are very fast adders. That's basically what's going on inside of a computer, except that your language that actually talks to the computer, the instructions that tell the computer what to do, they start at a higher level. I write down x, and I write a little hat to make it an exponent too. Well, it takes that reduces it down to additions, and now the computer knows what to do with it. So think of the computer as a big adding machine, but a fast adding machine. It can add, billions of numbers together in a millisecond. Really, really fast adding machine. That's basically what it's doing. So all the algebra can be broken down into adding. So computers can do that quickly. Now, that's a very rough statement. I'm sure people in computer science are probably choking on that. But anyway, in just a very general way, that's how things work. So if you look at algebra and just understand what's the logic. All right, now you have something to the 1/2 power. 1/2 power, what the heck does that mean? Doesn't mean anything other than the 1/2 power means that there's two things multiplied together give you that thing. 1/2 power is the same as a square root. So you just learn the logic. Stop looking for the mystical meaning of it all. Learn the logic, and then it's just simply learning steps. You learn that here's how things group together, here's how you break things apart, and it's all just simple. You have to have a good memory. Okay, if you have a very poor memory, it's really hard because you forget the logic. You forget you had one over here and then there's one over there, and together they're two. You look at this one and you forget about that one, so you get confused. But with a decent memory, so that you can remember what all the rules are and what the notation means, that a little number at the top means is an exponent, and you multiply that thing by itself that many times. So that's just a rule. You learn the rules, and then you're good at math because there's nothing else to it. It's just the rules of logic of quantity. And you can learn all kinds of rules. I mean, we learn all sorts of complex social rules about things to do and things not to do and when to do them and when not to do them. And we have thousands of rules running around in our head that makes us what socially intelligent, so that we can deal interactively with people. Lots of rules to that. And we don't have problems with those. Math isn't any more complicated than that. You just learn the rules and do it. Now, I spent a lot of time when I was in school asking why? What does it mean? What does it mean to have raise something to the power of 0.7? You multiply it times itself 0.7 times? What does that mean? You can't multiply times itself 0.7 times. It doesn't make any sense. And if you worry about things like that, you'll drive yourself insane because it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be rational in any way. You're just following rules. You can multiply something times itself 0.7 times. You just can't do it with integers always. You have to follow the rules about how the various pieces exponents work. And if you follow the rules, you can do those things. But if you get into this, that doesn't mean anything. That's crazy. Nobody can multiply something times itself some fraction of the time. It doesn't compute. Well, it does compute. It's part of the rationality of quantity. And once you learn the rules, you understand the math. So don't get twisted up by what the hell does that mean? This is crazy stuff. It isn't. It just is rules. And learning them, memorizing them, and plug and chugging.
Thank you,
So
Tom.
that's my little thing on math is
Okay.
don't get hung up on what does that mean? Theories of math, they're unfathomable. They're not. It's just rules.
Thanks a lot. That was fun.
I and MBT Events hope you like this video. If you do, then you should consider being a Patreon member, because Patreon members get early access to our special content. You will also be able to get your questions answered by me in special Q&A sessions, and most importantly, your contribution as a patron member will enable us to produce the content that you're looking for. So thank you.